I still remember the night everything shifted, even though I did not know it then. I sat alone at the small kitchen table, staring at my phone as message after message came in. Friends, neighbors, even family members told me I should be ashamed. They said I had hurt her, that I had failed as a husband. No one asked what really happened. No one asked me. I had learned that silence could be loud. I replayed the last few years in my mind, trying to understand how I became the villain in everyone's story. I had worked long hours, paid every bill, and stayed calm when things grew tense. Yet somehow, the story told about me was darker than the truth. I felt like I was standing in a storm, watching people point at me while the real damage stayed hidden. That night, I decided I would not fight back with anger. I would not shout or beg. I would wait. I would gather every detail, every fact, and every memory. I knew the truth had weight, and one day it would fall. When it did, nothing would stay the same again. Our problems did not start with shouting or door slamming. They began quietly, with small changes I ignored. She became distant, always checking her phone, always tired when I tried to talk. I told myself every marriage had rough spots. I believed patience could fix anything. Her family visited often, and I noticed how their smiles felt sharp. They spoke to me like I was a guest in my own home. I stayed polite, even when jokes crossed lines. I thought respect would come back if I showed enough of it. Instead, the space between us grew wider. One evening, she accused me of controlling her. I was shocked. I had never stopped her from doing anything. Still, she cried, and I stood there frozen, unsure how truth could sound so false. Later, I learned she had already shared her version with others. Stories spread fast when they feed emotions. Soon, people avoided my eyes. I felt watched, judged, and cornered. I kept asking myself where I went wrong. What I did not know was that the story had been written without me, and everyone had already chosen a side. The first time I heard the rumors clearly, I was at work. A co-worker pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home. His voice carried pity. I asked what he meant, and he hesitated before repeating what he heard. He said I was cold, selfish, and emotionally cruel. I felt my chest tighten. None of it matched the life I lived. I went home early that day, hoping to talk things through. She was calm, almost too calm. When I asked why people believe these things, she said I should reflect on my actions. That answer hurt more than anger would have. That night, I slept on the couch by choice. I needed space to think. I realized that every argument ended with me apologizing, even when I did not understand why. I had been trained to doubt myself. As days passed, her confidence grew while mine faded. She spoke openly to others, while I stayed silent. I thought honesty would protect me. I was wrong. Silence made me look guilty. Still, I kept notes, saved messages, and tracked dates. I did not know how, but I trusted they would matter later. Her family called a meeting without me. I learned about it through a neighbor who felt awkward telling me. They had gathered to discuss my behavior and how to protect her. Hearing that felt like being erased from my own life. When I finally faced them, they spoke as if decisions were already made. They told me I needed help and suggested I move out for her comfort. I asked what proof they had. They said her tears were enough. I packed a bag that night. Leaving felt like surrender, but staying felt dangerous. I moved into a small rental across town. The walls were thin and the silence was heavy. I stared at the ceiling each night, wondering how love could turn into judgment so quickly. Messages from friends slowed, then stopped. Invitations disappeared. I felt like a ghost walking through familiar streets. Still, I stayed focused. I organized emails, bank records, and old photos. I replayed conversations in my head, matching dates and words. I told myself the truth was not loud, but it was steady. I would let it speak when the time was right. Weeks turned into months, and the story about me grew worse. She filed for separation, claiming emotional harm. Everyone praised her bravery. I was advised to stay quiet by a legal counselor, and that silence nearly broke me. I attended meetings where I felt invisible. People talked over me, around me, and about me. I answered questions calmly, even when they were unfair. I knew anger would be used against me. Late at night, I reviewed timelines. I noticed patterns I missed before. Her accusations started after certain financial changes. I remembered conversations where she pushed for control over accounts. I found messages where she contradicted herself. I also remembered moments of kindness she showed others, moments that made her look gentle and caring. That contrast confused people. They could not imagine her lying. I understood why they chose her side. Still, I trusted facts more than feelings. I made copies of everything and backed them up. Each document felt like a brick. I was building something strong, even if no one saw it yet. The legal process moved slowly, but pressure came fast. I was asked to attend counseling sessions focused on my behavior. I agreed, knowing refusal would look bad. I spoke honestly, sharing my confusion and pain. The counselor listened carefully, taking notes. One session changed everything. I was asked about a date. She claimed I threatened to leave her with nothing. I calmly explained where I was that day and why. I showed proof of a work trip. The counselor paused and asked for copies. For the first time, someone looked unsure. That small moment gave me hope. I realized the truth did not need drama. It needed patience. Outside, whispers continued. Social media posts painted me as heartless. I avoided reading comments, but some still reached me. I felt anger rise, then settle into resolve. I reminded myself why I stayed quiet. I was not trying to win people. I was trying to correct a lie. Lies collapse when they meet light. I kept gathering light. She grew bolder as support surrounded her. She posted about strength and healing, never naming me but pointing clearly enough. Friends praised her courage. I was blocked from responding. One afternoon, I received an email meant for someone else. It contained a draft message where she discussed strategy with a relative. They talked about pushing me to settle quickly. They mentioned details that contradicted public claims. My hands shook as I read it. I did not react. I saved it, printed it, and logged the time. I felt sick but calm. This was proof. That night, I walked through my empty apartment, realizing how much I had lost. Then I realized how much I still had. I had the truth. I contacted my legal counselor and shared everything. His tone changed. He told me to keep doing exactly what I was doing. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. I knew the story was reaching a turning point, even if no one else did. The next hearing approached, and tension filled every moment. She avoided looking at me when we crossed paths. I wondered if guilt ever touched her, or she believed her own story by now. I stayed focused on facts. I reviewed every document again. I practiced speaking clearly without emotion. I knew confidence came from preparation. The counselor from earlier submitted notes that questioned inconsistencies. That small crack began to spread. Requests for clarification were made. Timelines were examined more closely. Her family still stood firm, but their voices sounded less certain. They asked questions instead of making statements. I watched carefully, saying little. I felt nervous but steady. I had spent months being patient. Now, the truth was stepping forward on its own. When the hearing ended for the day, I walked out alone, but lighter. I knew not everyone would believe me yet. Still, the ground was shifting. That night, I wrote one final list of key points. I closed my notebook and waited. The storm was about to change direction. News traveled quickly after the hearing. A few people reached out, asking careful questions. Their messages were quiet, unsure, and very different from before. I answered honestly, without blame. She responded with longer posts, emotional and vague. I noticed the comments were fewer. Some people asked what really happened. Others stayed silent. Another email arrived, this time confirming details she had denied earlier. It came from a shared account she forgot to log out of. I did not celebrate. I documented it. At work, my manager asked how I was holding up. His tone had changed. He listened instead of judging. That meant more than he knew. I reflected on how easily people believed a story when it fit their expectations. I did not hate them for it. I understood fear and emotion could bend truth. I stayed patient. I knew rushing now could ruin everything. I had waited too long to make a careless move. The truth was no longer hidden. It was lining up piece by piece, ready to be seen. The final meeting was scheduled quietly. No drama, no crowd. Just facts, documents, and questions. I walked in calm, carrying a single folder. She looked confident at first. That faded as details were reviewed. Dates did not match. Statements conflicted. Evidence spoke clearly. When the email draft was presented, the room grew still. She tried to explain, but words tangled. The counselor asked direct questions. Answers came slowly. I said nothing unless asked. I did not need to. The truth was doing the work for me. By the end, there was no shouting, just silence. Heavy, honest silence. Outside, I breathed deeply. I did not feel victory. I felt release. Later that day, messages came in. Some apologized. Others asked for my side. I told them calmly. Everyone had taken her side once. Now, they were seeing the full picture. The truth had changed everything, just as I believed it would. After the meeting, life did not instantly return to normal. Trust does not heal overnight. Still, the weight on my chest lifted. I walked through my days more freely. She stopped posting. Her family went quiet. I did not reach out. I focused on rebuilding my routine. Friends returned slowly. Some admitted they were wrong. Others stayed distant. I accepted both. I found peace in simple things again. Morning walks, cooking meals, reading at night. I learned that silence could be strength when paired with truth. I learned patience was not weakness. Looking back, I understood how close I came to losing myself. I promised I would never ignore my voice again. The story that once hurt me became a lesson I carried forward. I was not perfect, but I was honest. In the end, that was enough. Time continued to move, and so did I. I changed apartments, choosing a place filled with light. Each room felt like a fresh start. At work, I was offered a new project. My confidence returned, and others noticed. I no longer felt the need to explain myself. Those who wanted truth came to me. I thought about how quickly lives could change when stories replaced facts. I hoped others would learn to ask questions before choosing sides. I did not wish harm on her. I wished understanding. My journey taught me that truth might be quiet, but it lasts longer than noise. I stepped forward, ready for whatever came next, carrying lessons I earned the hard way. I shared my story with few people, not for sympathy, but for clarity. Each time, it felt lighter. I realized that pain did not define me. How I handled it did. The past no longer haunted me. It informed me. I stood taller, knowing I stayed true to myself. Life felt open again. I smiled more. I slept better. The storm had passed, leaving strength behind. Looking back, I saw how fear kept me silent too long. I forgave myself for that. I learned that truth needs protection, not hiding. I moved forward with calm confidence. I was ready for a new chapter, one built on honesty. I understood now that being believed was not as important as being right. The truth had changed everything, including me. I walked on, steady and free. Each day felt clearer. Each step felt lighter. I carried no bitterness, only wisdom. The story ended, but the lesson stayed. Truth always finds its way. I trusted myself again. That was the greatest victory. Life felt balanced. Peace replaced doubt. I moved forward without fear. I was ready. The past no longer defined me. The future was mine. I chose honesty every time. It never failed me again. Strength grew from patience. I learned that fully. I stood firm in truth. That was enough. Everyone once took her side. Then the truth changed everything.